July 2nd, 1943, Castelvetrano Airfield, Sicily. The Focke-Wulf 190 pilot never saw the P-40 Warhawk diving from above until .50 caliber rounds tore through his fuselage, sending his fighter spiraling into the countryside. First Lieutenant Charles B. Hall, a 22-year-old from Brazil, Indiana, had just achieved what many German Luftwaffe commanders believed impossible. A black American fighter pilot had shot down one of their elite aircraft. The swastika, later painted on Hall's P-40L Warhawk, would become the first of 112 enemy aircraft destroyed by the men the Germans would reportedly call Schwarze Vogelmenschen, the Black Birdmen. But that moment was more than a victory. It was the beginning of the collapse of one of Nazi Germany's core beliefs, that black pilots were Untermensch, subhuman, incapable of mastering complex machinery or facing combat with courage. What the Luftwaffe did not know as they climbed to intercept American bombers in 1943 was that they were about to face some of the most rigorously trained, highly motivated fighter pilots in the entire United States Army Air Forces. Pilots who had overcome obstacles their white counterparts never faced. They had trained longer, they had been scrutinized harder, and they carried into combat not just the burden of protecting bombers, but the responsibility of proving an entire race's capability to a world at war. The results would speak for themselves. 15,000 combat sorties, 1,578 missions, 112 aerial victories, and a bomber escort loss rate significantly lower than white fighter groups, numbers that forced even the most fanatical Nazi ideologues to confront the bankruptcy of their racial theories. But the journey toward that first victory did not begin in combat. It began in the hostile environment of American segregation. In 1925, the U.S. Army War College published a report titled Employment of Negro Manpower in War. Its conclusion was blunt and racist. Compared to the white man, he is admittedly of inferior mentality. He is inherently weak in character. This official doctrine claimed black soldiers lacked the intelligence for technical roles and the courage for combat leadership. Yet while military leaders clung to these prejudices, black Americans were already proving them wrong. Eugene Bullard flew for France in WWI because America refused to let him serve. Bessie Coleman earned her pilot's license in France in 1921 after no U.S. school would train her. By the 1930s, the Coffey School of Aeronautics in Chicago had trained dozens of black civilian pilots. As war clouds grew over Europe, civil rights leaders like Walter White, A. Philip Randolph, and Judge William H. Hastie pushed relentlessly for black inclusion in military aviation. Black newspapers demanded answers. How could America fight for democracy abroad while denying it at home? In 1939, Public Law 18 forced the government to include at least one flight school for black pilots. It was a small step, wrapped in segregation, but it cracked open the door. Then came the turning point. On January 16, 1941, Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson announced the creation of the 99th Pursuit Squadron, the first all-black flying unit in U.S. history. The military called it an experiment. Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., who had endured 4 years of silence at West Point because white cadets refused to speak to him, now carried the weight of commanding the men chosen to prove whether the experiment would succeed or fail. In April 1943, the 99th arrived in North Africa. They were placed under Colonel William Momier, a commander openly skeptical of black pilots. He assigned them low-priority missions and waited for them to fail. But failure never came. Their first combat happened on June 2, 1943, during an attack on the island of Pantelleria. German fighters appeared. The Tuskegee pilots held formation. They lost no bombers, and the Luftwaffe learned their first lesson. These pilots would not break under pressure. But the moment that changed everything came 1 month later, July 2nd, 1943, when Charles Hall made history in the skies over Sicily. When Hall landed, the entire airfield erupted in celebration. Black ground crews, men who had endured months of insults, finally had the answer to every doubt thrown at them, a confirmed aerial victory. But their battle was far from over. By January 1944, after 7 months of combat, Colonel Maumier filed a damaging report claiming the squadron lacked aggressiveness and recommending their removal from frontline duty. General Hap Arnold considered shutting down the entire program. Then came Anzio. On January 27, 1944, the Luftwaffe launched massive raids on Allied forces at the Anzio beachhead. 15 pilots of the 99th, flying outdated P-40s, engaged superior German FW-190s. What followed changed U.S. military history. Over 2 days, sources report between 8 and 13 German aircraft destroyed, far more than in the squadron's previous 7 months combined. Flying inferior equipment, the Tuskegee Airmen had just matched and exceeded the performance of white units. The War Department initiated a study. Its conclusion: the 99th performed as well as any other fighter squadron in the Mediterranean. The experiment was over. The black pilots had proven themselves decisively. In May 1944, the 99th joined with the 100th, 301st, and 302nd Fighter Squadrons to form the legendary 332nd Fighter Group, the Red Tails. And they were about to be given the mission that would make them icons. Stay with the bombers. Do not chase enemy fighters. Do not abandon formation. Their job was simple: bring the bombers home. In June 1944, the 332nd received a new marking system, entire tail sections painted bright red. This wasn't decoration. It was a signal to bomber crews, a promise of protection. The Red Tails quickly earned a reputation. They stayed with the bombers when others didn't. They resisted the urge to chase glory. They flew tight, disciplined formations. Bomber crews began requesting them by name. If you can get the Red Tails, get them. Their greatest test came on July 18, 1944, when 66 Mustangs led by Colonel Davis encountered roughly 100 German fighters attacking late-arriving bombers. Despite fierce resistance and claiming up to 12 kills, 15 bombers fell in 20 minutes. Critics attacked their performance until operational analysis revealed the truth. The 332nd arrived after the bombers were already under mass attack. They prevented the situation from becoming a complete massacre. By early 1945, Germany's piston engine fighters could no longer challenge Allied air power. But the war had one final escalation. The Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. On March 24, 1945, the Red Tails escorted bombers 1,600 miles round trip to Berlin. Intelligence warned that Germany's elite jet squadron, the feared Jagdgeschwader 7, would intercept. And they did. What followed was one of the most extraordinary aerial engagements of the war. Lieutenant Roscoe Brown shot down an Me 262 using brilliant maneuver tactics. Lieutenant Earl Lane accomplished a near-impossible 2,000-yard deflection shot. Lieutenant Charles Brantley claimed a third jet kill. 3 jets downed in one mission, more than many fighter groups shot down in the entire war. The 332nd received the Distinguished Unit Citation. Not every encounter ended in victory. 32 pilots became POWs. Their experiences in German prison camps revealed a deep irony. White American prisoners treated black pilots with more equality inside Nazi captivity than they often received at home. Lieutenant Alexander Jefferson, shot down in 1944, described German interrogators who knew the names of his commanders and even details about his parents. Inside Stalag Luft 3, bomber crews thanked him for red tail protection. When he returned to America, he was immediately segregated again. The statistics of the 332nd Fighter Group were staggering. 1,578 combat missions, 15,000 sorties, 112 aerial victories, 150 aircraft destroyed on the ground, 3 Me-262s downed in one mission, only 27 bombers lost under escort vs 46 in other groups, 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 744 air medals, 66 pilots killed in action. These numbers destroyed every pre-war assumption about black military capability. Their success came from longer, tougher training, sky-high washout rates, disciplined escort tactics, and relentless determination. The Red Tails flew outdated P-40 P-39s before finally receiving the aircraft that made them legends, the P-51 Mustang, the finest long-range escort fighter of the war. Behind every pilot stood thousands of ground personnel who kept the aircraft flying under primitive conditions at Ramitelli, often with fewer supplies than white units. The Tuskegee Airmen fought 2 wars simultaneously, one against fascism abroad and another against racism at home. Their victories helped push President Truman to sign Executive Order 9981 in 1948, integrating the U.S. military. In 2007, they finally received the Congressional Gold Medal. Many had waited more than 60 years. Their legacy is undeniable. They defeated the Luftwaffe in combat, they shattered Nazi racial ideology, and they helped dismantle segregation in the United States. As Roscoe Brown said, "We didn't just fight the Germans, we fought ignorance, prejudice, and hatred, and we won all 3 battles." The Tuskegee Airmen didn't just win victories, they changed history.